This conference will now be recorded.
Yeah, thank you. Let's get started now. Perfect. Here we go. What an awesome day. And we have a lot of people joining today's demo session on machine learning operations specialization program demo. I would like to officially welcome right now everyone. Thank you so much for making your time for this particular demo session. So please make sure you stay till the end of this particular program so you can able to download a free ebooks. This program is for 2 hours, folks. Make your mindset accordingly. It's going to be for next 2 hours. A lot of MLOps, what we're going to learn, and you can able to understand what is this MLOps specialization program, what is this course, and how it's going to be benefited. So if you want to know that, please make sure you stay till end of this particular program, and you can able to download the premium ebooks of MLOps from various different cloud platforms. So if you want to download that, please make sure you stay till end of this particular program. So without further ado, let's get started with this particular program. So today we're going to learn about MLOps and what is this MLOps specialization program is all about. Can we get started? Yes, we can get started. But before we getting started, we need to know our audience. Definitely, we have a lot of people still joining the program. Okay, so what usually I do, right, folks, I would like to set up some threshold. I want to understand who you guys are so I can able to deliver this content properly for you. So now please do use your chat window. So please describe who you are, right? So are you a data scientist? Are you an ML engineer? Are you a DevOps professional? Are you a data engineer? Are you a student? Please do mention who you are in the chat window. Let's try to understand who you are. Please go ahead and please do mention in the chat window. Here we go. We have Sridhar mentions he's a data scientist. We have Anthara just mentions he's a data scientist. Manoj says he's an ML engineer. Hi Manoj, thanks for joining. Roni says data scientist. Hi Roni. And we have Murthy says DBA, perfect. Ahmad says he's an ML engineer. Sitaram says DevOps professional. William says backend engineer. Hey William. Shivam says he's a data scientist. Philip says he's a Python SQL programmer. Perfect. Thanks for joining. Selvam says he's a data scientist. Sri Dayal says he's a data science student. That's awesome. So Nitish, we have a lead data scientist from Bangalore. That's awesome, Nitish. Thanks for providing a detailed description about you. Chakra says, okay, so here we have Viniram says is a data analyst. That's perfect. So we have Chaitanya. Hi, Chaitanya is a data scientist. We have Nilesh, student at MTech in AI. That's perfect. Ranjit Kumar says is an application developer manager. Omkar says a lead machine learning developer. That's awesome, awesome, awesome. You know, like we have a very quality audience today. Okay, so without further ado, we'll get started with this particular program. We will enjoy this next 2 hours. Pretty much awesome. Let's get started. Okay, perfect. Let's try to navigate my slide. Let's get started. So first of all, who am I? Right. So this is Sharath. Let me just quickly try to switch on my camera. I believe you guys can able to see me right now. That's perfect. Hello, folks. This is Sharath. I'm a founder and CEO of Cyton Technologies. I will be your trainer for this next 2 hours, where I'm going to teach you a lot about MLOps. Okay, don't miss it. Don't leave the meeting. So you can able to download a free ebooks only if you stay till end of this particular program. You can learn lot about MLOps only if you stay till end of this particular program, and you can enjoy an awesome demo that we have arranged. So yeah, so more about us, what we do in the Cyton Technologies. So personally, I have conducted more than 100 plus webinars and courses. I have trained more peoples like you, more than 5,000 plus working professionals, helping them transforming their jobs and again upgrading their skills, becoming a specialist in MLOps, AI, anything. Just imagine anything in terms of a cloud platform like AWS, Azure, GCP, open source tools. We are the experts. Okay, so more about us. We are from Cyton Technologies. You can just check our website. You can learn more about us. Okay, so now I'm going to disable my camera. Otherwise, let's say when I'm sharing the recordings for you, it will be like you will be having my screen feed towards left side. Perfect. Can we get started now? Here we go. What are we here for next 2 hours? These are the three things that we're going to learn from this particular demo session. So the highlights of this particular demo is, what is really this MLOps? What is this really MLOps? What's a great deal about it? Okay, and you might be having a question, how can I become a master in MLOps? I'm going to answer that. Then how does a job market looks like in MLOps? If I become an MLOps, if I become MLOps engineer, or if I become a skilled in MLOps engineer, what salary I can able to expect? How can my lifestyle can be changed? Okay, I'm going to answer all these things only if you stay till end of this particular program. So can we get started? Perfect. Here we go. Okay. Why am I displaying this random picture? Okay, so whatever the session that we conduct, basically we'll get started with this beautiful picture. Okay, here is a task for you guys. Okay, I want to make it more interactive. I want you guys to observe this particular picture for next 10 seconds, and I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. Okay, go ahead, start observing this particular picture. Go ahead. Yes. Okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Perfect. Okay, so nothing much. Obviously, there's nothing much to observe for next 10 seconds. Obviously, we understand what it is. Okay, now use your chat window to describe what is there in this particular picture. Okay, I know that you have already observed this particular picture. I want to ask you, what is this picture is about? Okay, here we have Phillips trying to describe there are 4 dogs. Okay, try to describe this picture. Use your chat window. Let's see who describes it perfectly. Go ahead and try to describe it. We have Venkata Subramanian saying that relaxing in a park. What an awesome description, right? So what is this about? Obviously, we know that this is the picture of a park, right? Here we have a Nag. He says that it's a park where people are relaxing, even dogs too. That's an awesome description. That's good. Okay, we know that this is a picture of a park. We can see a lot of trees around. We can see a people's walking. We have a men, we have a women, we have dogs, right? Not even a single dog, multiple dogs, and we have a different breeds of dog, not one breed of dog, right? And we can see a path where we can walk, and we have a lot of grass here, obviously, right? We know that, but that's not a question that I'm going to ask you guys. My question is a bit different. Okay, so my question is, how do you know this is a picture of a park? Right? So Venkatesh Subramani says there are 5 dogs, 4 peoples, and he just literally counts it. But my question is not that. How do you know this is a picture of a park? Who taught you this is a park? Park looks like this. Who taught you this is the dog? This is how the dog looks like. Who taught you this is a man? A man looks like this. That might be a pretty much a crazy question, isn't it? Right? So how do you know that? So here we have a Nag, a person called Nag. He already describing comparing objects for known labels, for example, something like that. Here we can see Venkata Subramanian just trying to describe learning from a childhood, previous learning. Chakra says from previous learning. So what we are doing today, what we call as data science, what we call as machine learning, what we call it as AI today, right? So we are the best examples always, right? So we are a biological machines, isn't it? Right? So we learn something, right? Consider that. Okay, let's go to this particular picture. Okay, so let's say if I try to display the same exact picture to this newborn baby, let's say I'm going to display this particular picture to the newborn baby, less than 1 year old. So do you think like this baby could able to recognize the same exact things that you are recognizing right now? Can a baby say it's a picture of a park, it's a picture of a dog, something like that? No, probably not, right? A baby which is less than 1 year old barely knows his father and mother, but apart from that, a baby doesn't know anything else, right? So what happens when a baby grows? Let's say he might be learning from his parents. He will go for a primary school and a higher secondary school. Then he will be going for a college. And each and every day we learn something, right? We learn from books. Consider that as a human being, we consume our data in many different fashions, isn't it? We consume our data through our eyes, visuals. We consume our data through our ears, through audio. We consume our data through our sense and various different ways, right? That's how we consume our data, and we learn and we become better, right? So, and again, consider this entire growth cycle of a human being as a graph, right? So this is exponentially grows up. Each and every day we learn something and we become better. And with this knowledge that you have gained, you can able to make a decision for your future, isn't it? You can decide what works for you, what you need to learn, right? And let me just tell you one more reality. You decided to spend your valuable 2 hours time with me, right? To believing that Sharath is going to deliver something really awesome into MLOps, which is going to transform your life, right? So you could able to take a decision for a future. You believe that a machine learning or a data science and AI and MLOps is future, basically, right? So we are the best examples of AI, what we used to call, right? And again, today human beings want to replicate the same exact things. The way we could able to learn a data and we could able to become better in the future, we can able to make a better predictions and decisions. And human being want to teach the same exact things to this dumb machines. The way we have learned the data, human being want to teach the same data to it, and we want this machine to make some predictions and decisions. Okay, let me just explain a very simple example for you. Okay, let's consider we have some kind of a data, right? Obviously, we consume a data in various different fashions, and consider we have some kind of a data here. So the goal for me is I want to teach this data to this machine. Once this machine understands various different patterns from this data, then I want my machine to make some predictions. I mean, I want this machine to make some decisions. Okay, what is this data? Let me just put up some use case. Consider that I'm going to collect the electricity data from your home. Let's say I'm going to collect how much energy do you consume in your home, how much energy your washing machine, your fridge, water geyser, the air conditioning unit. Let's say I'm collecting this data for next 3 years. Let's say I'm collecting this data for 3 years. I'm going to have total 30,000 data points. I mean, I'm going to have a total 30,000 data points basically. Okay, so I want to teach this data to this machine. So once this machine understands the various different patterns, how do you consume your electricity in a winter, in a summer, in a spring? So a machine tries to understand various different patterns from it. So once machine understands everything, it produces something called machine learning model, so which is going to be a final end product, obviously. So once it has a machine learning model, then I can able to ask this machine to make a forecast. What do you mean by forecast? I can able to ask this machine what will be my electricity bills for next 6 months, what I'm going to pay for the first month, so what I'm going to pay for the second month, and what I'm going to pay for the next 6 months, for example. So I can able to ask this machine to make some forecast, right? Just imagine that if I can able to predict what is your electricity bills for the next 6 months, isn't it awesome? Yes, obviously, right? So this is what we call it as a machine learning, or maybe AI at the end of the day. So otherwise, let's say I want to, instead of I'm teaching a static data, let's say I want to teach a difference between a cat, right? Let's say I want to teach a difference between a cat and a dog. So what I do, I take a bunch of pictures of a cats and dogs. I will try to teach this differences between the cats and dogs to this machine. So once machine understands everything, let's say I put up a camera in front of my machine. So then I'm going to put a cat. Consider that this is our cat, for example. So I'm going to put a cat in front of that camera. Then I'm going to ask my machine to predict what you find in front of a camera. So then my machine is going to say that it predicted a cat, right? So this is what we call it as computer vision. Otherwise, right, anything that we can do with images and videos. Obviously we understand all this stuff, right? And we build ML models, right? So but my question is what it takes to build a successful ML model, right? What it takes to build a successful ML project, right? So consider that what exactly organizations like Uber, what is exactly our organizations like Redbus is doing, or maybe Netflix is doing today, right? How do they build their ML models? How do their pipelines looks like? Let's talk about that. Okay, so this is the typical workflow of creating a successful ML model. Okay, so obviously we do understand that we consume our data in various different fashions, right? We consume our data through our ears, we consume our data through our eyes, through visuals, blah blah blah, other stuff. Similarly, a machine can able to consume a data in various different ways. We understand that your data can be in the terms of a pictures like JPEG, it can be a CSV files, it can be a JSON documents, it can be a pretty much a simple text file, obviously. Yes, what is the first step in the process of building an ML model? We do something called data preparation. What is this data preparation? Obviously. So let's try to talk about our kitchens in our home. So data preparation is similar to what we do in the kitchen. Right? What we do in the kitchen, we cook a food, right? So what we do, if you want to cook a food, we bring some vegetables, we bring some ingredients from a market. So what happens, the first process is we clean our vegetables, we remove unnecessary stuff, right? And we put some masala, we cut it, we put some masala and we start preparing our food. Data preparation is exactly similar to that. Yes. So real-time data from the market, from your customers, that comes with a lot of different garbages. It has outliers, it has missing values, blah, 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 other kind of garbages. We do prepare it. We do transform it if it is necessary, right? So what happens once your data is prepared, clean enough? Once you have a clean data, then we use IDEs like Jupyter Notebooks. Otherwise, we use IDEs like VS Code or whatever the IDE that you have. This is where we write some code. Obviously, we use Python, whatever the language that you need. Here we write a script. Why do you write a script? Because we want to teach a data to a machine, correct? I have a data, I want to teach this data to a machine. If you want to teach a data to a machine, you need to mention what kind of a machine it is, where your data is coming from, where you have stored your data, all those informations we have to provide, isn't it? So we do provide those informations in the scripts, obviously. So once we have script, we will start executing it. We pick a machine and we start teaching a data to a machine. So this is what we call it as a model training, right? So we start training our machine with the data that we have cleaned and prepared right now, right? So once our ML model has been, so once our machine has learned all the data, it's going to produce something called machine learning model, which is going to be a final end product. Okay, that's perfect. So then we also test our ML model with some kind of a test data that we also kept aside. So we're going to also test it. And if you're really satisfied with the test results, let's say if your quality of an ML model is really good after testing, we want to store this ML somewhere. So where are you going to store it? Let's say when it comes to you're a data scientist, you might produce a pickle models, you might produce a different kind of a formats of a model. So where are you going to store it? Let's say you might have hundreds of ML models. So this is where something called model registries comes into the picture. So model registries are the exact tools which you're going to use it in order to version your ML model. So consider that in your model registry, you might have version 1, version 2. Let's say you might have n number of versions, right? So now what is the next step? Now we want to deploy our ML model. That's the next step, because we want to deploy our ML model. So then our clients, our users can come and interact with that. So that's the next step. So in order to deploy your ML model, so maybe we want to build your ML model. Otherwise, we want to Dockerize your ML model. So let's say we want to deploy our ML models in a various different fashions. Maybe I want to deploy my ML model on a Docker platform. I want to deploy my ML model on a Kubernetes. I want to deploy my ML model on a real-time endpoint, on a serverless framework for a batch transform. Oh my God, a lot of different options, right? How we build, that's a build step. So this is where, let's say we Dockerize our ML model, to finally we deploy our ML model on a Docker platform or any other deployment platform. Then comes our fellow developers. Obviously, what these people do, they build beautiful client applications, a web application, maybe Android application, which is going to help our clients to interact with our ML model that we have deployed. Okay, so this is a typical workflow of building an ML model. Okay, and obviously we understand what is exactly machine learning is. It's all about study of an algorithm. So it's all about putting it in a very simplest fashion. Let's say we have a complex mathematical models, right? So we teach a data to it. So once our machine understands complex mathematical models, then we can able to ask the machine to make some predictions to decide on a future. So here we do use various different programming languages. Obviously, let's say if you want to train your ML model, let's say if you want to train cleaner data, we do write a lot of different scripts. Obviously, we do use Python or R or JavaScript or C++. There are various different options, right? So all these things, what I'm trying to mention, that you're pretty much aware, right? So way we build, prepare a data, build your ML model. Then what is this MLOps then? What is this MLOps? Right, let's try to talk about what is exactly MLOps right now. Okay, so before we understanding what is exactly MLOps, we need to understand the current state of machine learning. So what do you mean by the current state of machine learning? So what is happening today in every organizations? What's happening in your organization? What's happening in your similar organizations? To understand this, what we need to do, we need to do a time travel. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Basically, we need to go for last 1 decade. We need to understand what just happened in last 1 decade. Okay, let's try to understand last 10 years ago or last 12 to 15 years ago, what just happened. So that's the point where the buzz started happening. Let's say the early 2000, 2005, for example. That's the time where a lot of organizations had a lot of data sitting in their organization doing nothing. Yes, pretty much doing nothing. So that's the point. They decided to add some value out of the data. They started hiring a lot of data engineers and data scientists who can build an ML model for them. That's the focus. The ultimate focus for every organization to build an ML model, not operationalizing that ML model. They have no idea. They don't want to get into the production yet because they are simply building an ML model. They are building prototypes. So, and today, if we understand, I'm talking about 2023. So today, 53% of POCs are making into production. So where they're building for last couple of years, now organizations finally they want to get into the production. They want to make some money. Obviously, they want to reach out their clients. It's an average, it takes 9 months for them. And it is expected by end of 2024. I'm not talking about next 5 years, folks. I'm just talking about 2024, that is upcoming year. 75% of organizations will shift from piloting to operationalizing their AI. So here we are talking about AI. We talk about ChatGPT, we talk about other AI tools which is released by a lot of different organizations, right? So AI is basically a final end product, correct? So consider that we are talking about ChatGPT, which is very familiar tool for everyone. So if you wonder, ChatGPT is again an ML model, so where they use LLMs and other different algorithms to train it. That's still an ML model. But once it is facing your customers, yes, we can say it is an AI, right? So now, what powers ChatGPT? What makes ChatGPT running till today? And if you go to ChatGPT right now, if you check the current version, they say that the version has been updated last August, last May, something like that. How they could able to release the new versions of an ML model again and again? How does their pipeline works? That is what exactly MLOps is all about. Can we get started? Can we try to understand what is exactly MLOps is all about? And this data, what I'm trying to mention, it's not something that randomly taken. It is from AWS AI Conclave, which has happened last January 2023. Okay, so now let's try to dive into MLOps. What is this MLOps is? MLOps stands for machine learning operations. You know that. So MLOps is a set of a practice. Basically, it's a collaboration and communication between the various stakeholders who are part of building ML projects. What do you mean by stakeholders who are part of building ML projects? So it can be a data scientist, it can be operational professionals. So who are the stakeholders, first of all, right? It depends on an organization. There are different stakeholders who are part of building ML models. It's not just a data scientist. This is not something that is done by data scientists itself. So we can start from a data engineers, isn't it? So we have a data engineers who build data pipelines to harvest the data. We have a data analyst. We have a data scientist, right? So our data engineers, they prepare data, they build data pipelines, do ETL on top of it, they bring the data. So then our data scientists will take a data from our data engineers, then our data scientist builds an actual ML model, isn't it? So then once the model is ready, then comes our machine learning engineers. We call it as a deployment peoples. Our machine learning engineers takes that ML model, they deploy it, they integrate with CI/CD pipelines, and they deploy it on a production servers, however you want. Then comes monitoring, then comes developers, all this stuff. So basically the collaboration and communication between these stakeholders, what we call it as MLOps. By applying these practices, we can able to increase the quality and simplify the management process of where you build, train, deploy, and monitor your ML models basically. So MLOps is all about, putting it in a pretty much layman terms, it's all about building an automation. That's it. It's all about building an automation for deploying your machine learning models or deploying your deep learning models in a large scale production environment. As simple as that. But there are pretty much different challenges in implementing MLOps. Let's try to talk about that one. Let's try to talk about the motivation, the MLOps high level motivation basically. So MLOps as a discipline, we know that it's an intersection between various domains. For example, it can be the intersection of data engineering, DevOps, and machine learning. The intersection of this, what we used to call it as MLOps. Yes, so MLOps is a discipline. It's enabled by the core set of practice. When people's technology and process comes together, this is where we can able to implement MLOps practices. That's what exactly we say it as a collaboration and communication. So let's say the intersection of these practices, when they're coming together, it can really drive a value how we build, deliver, and manage your machine learning models. Okay, so now let's talk about the real challenges. Let's get started. What are these MLOps challenges? Okay, so obviously in the process of creating and managing machine learning workflows, we will run into a lot of different challenges. So probably everyone knows that. We know that ML model building involves multiple steps. For example, data preparation step, model training step, and obviously model deployment step, right? So what are the challenges that we face in each and every the steps that I'm talking about? So one more thing that you need to note here, not only we have these steps, and that really goes into stitching up the different workflows together. What do you mean by that? Our data preparation step has to talk to our model training step. Our model training step has to talk to our model deployment step. Okay, let's try to understand what's really happening in a data preparation step. So you know that your data preparation step might contains, let's say, one to many tasks. Let's say we take a raw data and we want to eventually transform that into training data set, validation data set, test data set. We split the data here, correct? So then comes your model training step. So when it comes to your model training step, in this particular step, you might have some additional steps inside, like let's say your model training, whether you are doing a single model training or whether you're doing a multiple different experiments. I'm talking about you might do hyperparameter tuning job. Let's say you might produce multiple ML models here. You might produce the 10 ML models with different hyperparameter tuning job. Okay, so then comes model deployment step. In model deployment step, you might have only one step in the workflow, or it could have many tasks underneath it. It could be deploying to a staging environment, or let's say you want to deploy to the production environment, and you might have a different controls inside, like a manual approval to the model deployment process. See what I'm trying to mention. Let's say when it comes to deploying your ML model, we might have a multiple different environments. What do you mean by that? Let's say we have something called dev environment, then we have something called a production environment, for example. So what is this dev and production? So basically a production environment is something your client facing, basically. So this is where your customers would interact with your ML model. So dev environment is something to your internal team. So what happens, initially we deploy our ML model to a dev environment. So basically a dev environment is an exact replica of our production environment. So once we deploy our ML model, our fellow data scientists or anyone who is responsible in your team, we will come here and we will evaluate whether your model is working as you intended. And if it is perfectly working fine, and if you're really satisfied, then only we will be deploying our ML model to a production environment. So that's how it works. That's the right practice. And again, if you want to deploy your ML models, we'll be having a various different controls in it. So for example, we don't want to, whenever you retrain your ML model, we don't want to automatically deploy our ML model to production. In organizations, we usually want to manually approve your ML model to be deployed. So for example, let's say I might have an approval process in between dev and production. See what happens, let's say I might have a senior data scientist, I might have a senior data science manager, anyone who comes to the deployment process and they approve your ML model, basically. So they check it, they validate it, and if they are satisfied, they click on this approval button in order to deploy your ML model to dev or a production. So that's how it works. So what I'm trying to explain, so there are a lot of different steps, lot of different dependencies has to work together to ultimately build this and build out something that provides, let's say, iteration across the life cycle, and also provide end-to-end traceability to track the models that you have trained in model development environment, and whether this model to be deployed to a production ready environment, how they are being deployed, what version of a model that you are deployed. Consider that you might have a 10 versions of an ML model, and you want to deploy the best version of an ML model to the deployment, right? And you want to track each and everything. You need to track what's happening in your data preparation, whether your data preparation job has been completed, what happens in a model training, whether your model training has been done completely or not, and what's happening in your deployment, basically. So there's a multiple scenarios, and this steps involves this can be complicated and challenging. So one more term that is much related when we talk about MLOps, people also talk about DevOps. Is this DevOps is similar to MLOps? Yes, we do have some common things, but DevOps is not exactly similar to MLOps here. So challenge, let's say when we talk about DevOps, let's say when we talk about DevOps versus MLOps, the challenges in operationalizing your ML models, right? We have some common things compared with the software production. See, DevOps is for software. Consider that, let's say there is a software developer, someone who builds a software, and we want to deliver this software, we want to deploy this software, we want to build some automation for delivering this software. This is where DevOps comes into the picture. Okay, so but MLOps is for delivering your ML models, not your software part. Okay, so what are the common things we are talking about when it comes to DevOps? The CI/CD practices that we follow in DevOps are common in MLOps also. The source and version control practices that we are following in DevOps, which is also common in MLOps also here. Okay, perfect. So, but that's not the only challenge. That's not the only common things that we have. So you know that when we talk about, let's say, CI/CD tools or source and version control tools, you know that CI/CD tools aren't necessarily built for machine learning separately. We don't have CI/CD tools separately built for ML. That's a reality. In reality, what you might use is we use different combinations of tools and integrations. Sometimes that is purpose built for data preparation. So we will use purpose built tool for data preparation. We will be building purpose-built tools for model training and deployment also. So all those things, you know, that it can be complicated and challenging to stitch together. And more complicated than this, there is no golden pipeline that you can follow. Consider that today, if I draft you an architecture, so not every organizations they can use the same architecture, but what is so much common is the steps and the core concepts. What I recommend in our program, it's going to be common. Basically, each and every organization has a different requirements. A few organizations, they might use AWS, Azure, GCP, and maybe they might use open source tools, for example. Okay, so but when it comes to MLOps, we need more than CI/CD and source version control tools. Okay, to understand this, for example, we have to start from source code versioning and tracking and versioning your data, model artifacts versioning and model versioning. So what do you mean by this? Okay, let me just provide you a clarity here. Okay, so in order to get a much clarity on these tools, what I'm talking about, let's try to discuss a story. Stories are always awesome. Okay, just listen to it. Okay, perfect. Let's say we are going somewhere around 2019 or beginning of 2020. Okay, so let's say we are building ML model for a data owners. Consider that we are everyone together, we are building a ML models for a data owners. For what? Let's say we are trying to solve a problem, basically to understand how much money they're going to make, to forecast how much ticket sales they are making. Okay, consider that at that particular point we didn't care about MLOps at all. There's no MLOps. We believe that we have a data, we could able to train an ML model and we could deploy it on some kind of a deployment platform, and we expected it will work for completely fine for next 10 years. That's what the expectation is. But you deployed it, but as per your expectation, the model didn't work. The model has become completely failed. Okay, the model become completely failed in next couple of months itself. The question is why did that model fail? The reason is COVID. You can see 2020 is a time where COVID happens, correct? If we understand that, so your customers are your data, right? The people who comes to your theaters are your data. What happens during COVID? We didn't go for theaters, everyone went to lockdown. But one small change happened over there. Instead of let's say going for theaters, we started subscribing to OTTs, correct? We started subscribing to Amazon Prime, Netflix, blah blah blah, Hotstar, whatever it is. What I'm trying to point out here, folks, because your customer behavior is changing. So what we used to call it as a drift. Okay, so you didn't had a tool to monitor your ML model. That's the biggest problem. So because your customers are not going for data and your model is being drifted, your model is not producing a quality results, you don't have a model monitoring tool in order to monitor the quality of a model which is in a production. That's why your business failed, your model failed. So, and another aspect is you also don't have a tool for versioning your data. Consider that before COVID, you have a different customer behavior. During COVID, you have a different customer behavior. And after COVID, you have a different customer behavior. You didn't had a tool to version your data. So there are tools, for example, we used to call it as data version control tool. There are tools on top of AWS, Azure, GCP, which is used for versioning your data. So that's why versioning your code and data is really important. As part of a source code versioning, consider that we have a lot of data scientists here, a lot of data engineers here. How many times you might have changed your code, right? Couple of times probably. Have you thought of versioning that particular code? Have you thought of using Git based tools, GitHub or something on AWS, Azure, GCP to version your code? That's really important when it comes to MLOps. Then followed by that, versioning your model artifacts and models are really important. So consider that throughout the life cycle of that project, are you going to build only one ML model? No, right? We're going to build maybe hundreds and thousands of an ML model. Where are you going to keep all those ML models? Are you going to put it in a zip file like pickle files? You're going to just zip it and keep it? No, it's not something right practice. This is where we used to use something called model registries, a dedicated tools for versioning your ML models, which will have a version ID. You can deploy any model that you want. You want to roll back it. If that didn't work, you can roll back. Okay, so that's a thing. Okay, saying that, we understand something here, and now the question is, okay, Sharath, that's perfect. What it takes to master MLOps right now? Okay, so what it takes to master MLOps? So let's begin the journey of mastering MLOps right now. So when we are talking about mastering an MLOps, we need to understand various different components of MLOps. We used to call it as MLOps components. Okay, so what we do here in this building ML pipelines otherwise, or MLOps pipelines for delivering your ML models. So there are various different processes that comes into the picture. The first thing is obviously the use case discovery. Any organization should have a proper use case to get started. Then comes data engineering team who builds data pipelines to harvest the data, do ETL, prepare and clean it. And then comes building machine learning pipelines. So machine learning pipelines are an automated pipelines. See, today as a data scientist, you run the code manually. You go for Jupyter notebooks. If you want to train an ML model, you run the code, run, produce ML model. No, that's not the practice what we're talking about. We are talking about an automation. We want our data preparation to be happen automatically. Model training has to happen automatically. Model deployment has to happen automatically, and model monitoring. And in case if there is any drift, any changes, we want to rerun that pipeline or retrain your ML models automatically. That's the automation what we're talking about. So this is where we build ML pipelines, then deploying your ML models to production, and production monitoring comes into the picture basically. Okay, so let's say we understand that when it comes to use case identification, we have our business team, we have a data scientist and business team, they working together here to transform a business problem into let's say the problem statement basically, and we will set an objectives to be solved by our ML models. Basically we define a KPIs basically here, right? So then we understand the data, we understand the feasibility study, then we will be started thinking about data preparation. See, as part of our data preparation, we'll be having our data engineers, they will be working closely with the data scientists. They build data pipelines as I'm talking about here. They will be responsible for preparing and transforming, validating your data basically. And then we will be learning about algorithms. So there are various different algorithms that we could able to use to solve any problem. Maybe you're solving a regression problem, maybe you're solving a classification problem. So you pick the right algorithm that matches your requirements, right? So then you build an actual ML model. That means we take a data, we teach a data to a machine, right? So then we do various different experiments. We might not train ML model only once. We might do multiple experiments. We might do hyperparameter tuning job. We do 10 iterations. 10 iterations produces 10 ML models. Where are we going to version all these ML models? That's where the model registries comes into the picture, right? So then if you are satisfied with one ML model, let's say we do evaluate that ML model, we calculate a lot of different metrics, then we started thinking about model serving. So let's say now we want to serve this ML model. That means we want to deploy our ML models into the production. So we want to deploy our ML models to the secure environment, secure and seamless deployment, what we are looking forward. Let's say, where do you deploy your ML models? You want to deploy your ML models to the public cloud, or you want to deploy your ML models to your on-premises servers. Maybe you want to deploy your ML models to the hybrid method. Maybe you want to deploy your ML models to edge devices, right? So there are multiple ways, and this is where we integrate the automation process, because we want our pipelines to execute automatically, right? So then we want to integrate model monitoring tools and entire infrastructure. Consider guys, when it comes to MLOps, it's really important to monitor your infrastructure that you have built, infrastructure for data preparation, model training, and CI/CD pipelines that you have. And again, post deployment of your ML model, monitoring your deployed models are really important. And we learn our lessons from it and we optimize it again and again and again. Okay, that's how it works. And now let's move on to the very important slide. This is a slide which will get you the complete clarity of MLOps. So when it comes to MLOps, every industries has some kind of a maturity level. Not every organizations they're going to integrate or implement the top level of MLOps. No, they go from level 0. For example, we call it as level 0, level 1, level 2, level 3, and level 4. We call it as the maturity level. The level 4 is the top level of a maturity where automated retraining of an ML model comes into the picture. Otherwise, we call it as a CT. Okay, the goal for every industries today is basically moving from building an automated ML workflows to integrated CI/CD pipelines. They want to move to integrated CI/CD pipelines. So now let's have our complete attention here. Let's try to understand what it takes to build the level 4 architecture of an MLOps architecture. Okay, let's get started. The first thing is obviously ML project identification. So we need to have a right project, enough data to get started, isn't it? Okay, let's understand that. Okay, there is enough data to get started. use case is finalized. Okay, now we are talking about data. We know that I already provided an example. The data keeps on changing, right? Once your business environment is changing, your data is getting changed. So this is where we integrate data version control tools. For example, DVC, something on AWS, something on Azure. We do integrate it over here. So we version our data. You might have multiple versions of a data. You can pick any version of a data, and you can start doing a data preparation. So data pre-processing. So once we are coming to a data pre-processing step, what happens? Your data engineers or data scientists, here we'll be writing a lot of scripts. We write Python programming, for example, and this code can change a couple of times in the future. As a data scientist, as a data engineer, you know that a couple of times you might have changed the code. And this is where we want to integrate this code to a code repositories. For example, there is a tools called GitHub, AWS has code commit, Azure repositories or Google Cloud repositories. We use different cloud platforms, different repositories to version our code. So then comes our model building step. Even in a model building step, we have a data scientist who will be writing a code. He will be writing a code for picking up an algorithm, the kind of a machine that I want to use in order to train our ML model, a couple of things, right? So again, he will be also versioning a code in a code repository. So the next process is model training. So what we do in a model training, we pick a machine, we teach our data to a machine, correct? So we fetch our data from our data version control tools, and we have something called feature stores. What is this feature store? Why it is really important? Feature stores are basically a schema repositories. For example, let's say we are training an ML model to predict electricity bill forecast as we are discussing. So what are the features do you think that is really important? Let's say, for example, I have a features called voltage, current, that is I, and then I will be having a bills that I paid in a previous months. So these are the three features which is really important. Let's say that in order to train my ML model, consider that. So these are the features. I might have a multiple features. For example, I might have a power as a feature, right? So consider that combination of these three features, voltage, current, and bills, this can be a version 1 of my feature. And combination of all these 4 features, this can be a version 2 feature, for example. So in a feature store, we do version the schema, so we can able to use different schema, and through this schema we can fetch whatever the data that you want. So this is called feature stores, which is again really important. Through feature stores we fetch features and then we fetch a data, then we start building our ML models. Okay, so what happens after building ML model? You'll be having ML model, which is the final end product. What happens that, so here once after your model building is done, it produces model artifacts. So model artifacts are basically, with your ML model, you'll be producing a lot of metadata along with that. And this is where our model registries comes into the picture. So you might produce n number of ML models. You might produce version 1, version 2, or version n. So we want to use model registries in order to version our ML models. So there are different kind of model registries that organizations uses today. For example, SageMaker in AWS, it has a model registry. Azure Machine Learning Studio has a model registry. Vertex AI in GCP, they have a model registry. Otherwise, if an organization is using open source tools, for example, we can talk about MLFlow, which is very famous model registry tool, and also it is used for model experimentation also. Then comes model deployment. As part of a model deployment, let's say we want to take ML model, we want to dockerize it, and we want to finally integrate it, and we want to deploy it on some kind of a server endpoint on Docker servers, on Kubernetes, for example. So then we build operations here. We want to integrate something called a feedback loop. Otherwise, we used to call as automated quality gates. We can have both quality gates on data preparation side and also on a model deployment side. So what is this automated quality gates? How it helps you? Basically, let's say you want to decide in order to deploy your ML model, whether it is a best ML model to be deployed to a production or not. How do you decide, right? So this is where quality gates comes into the picture. So based on a model metrics, consider that if let's say I'm going to let's say I'm training a regression model, for example, there are some metrics where I'm going to depend upon. Let's say, for example, I calculate something called MSC score. If my MSC score is less than or equal to 7, I want my ML models to be deployed to a production. Otherwise, I won't deploy this ML models to the production. So this is how you can able to decide whether it's a quality ML model, can I deploy it to the production or not. Okay. You can also use automated quality gates on the side of a data preparation also. You can able to use checkpoints here in order to decide whether your data is clean enough, it is out from outliers or not, those stuff. And again, you need to have end-to-end traceability, right? Whatever we are trying to do here, we are talking about an infrastructure. The infrastructure that you are built for data preparation, for model training, for model deployment, the infrastructure for data versioning, code repositories, for feature stores, we need to monitor the complete environment here. And again, post deployment, we need to also monitor our ML models basically. So, and again, whenever there is a drift has been identified in your ML model, whenever your developers or maybe your data scientist, let's say he is making some changes in your code. For example, our data scientists want to make some changes to the code. Consider that they comes and make some changes to the code in a repository and they submit the code. Automatically we want our pipelines to execute. We don't want again we go and run our code. We want our pipelines to execute automatically, where data preparation happens automatically, model training happens automatically, model deployment and model monitoring happens automatically. So that's what we call it as a level 4 architecture. Okay, that's fine, pretty much awesome. But the question is, Sharad, I'm a data scientist, I'm a DevOps professional, I'm an ML engineer, I'm a data engineer, I'm a data analyst. So what I will be doing here, who is responsible for what? So for that, let's try to understand the different roles involved in MLOps. Okay, so obviously we understand that developing a successful machine learning project involves varieties of experience and requires extreme collaboration among a team. So there are pretty much different requirements when it comes to build and successful ML model. First of all, we need to have enough data, a good features to get started. We need to have a good problem statement to solve, right? Apart from that, we need to understand, do we have a good team? Do we have a good team to build this? First of all, we need to understand, do we have enough employees? Do we have enough manpower? Do we have enough funds to hire a lot of different peoples? So consider that here are the various different roles who are part of building ML models, or maybe you are part of building ML projects basically. So we have data analyst who are part of building ML projects. So pretty much they will be working closely with the product manager and business team. All they do, they try to drive a value from a user data and they build beautiful visualizations. They do data analyst also works on a post deployment of your ML model, because they collect a lot of data from your infrastructure, from your model monitoring tools. They build beautiful visualizations. They tell a story over there. So there's a job over there. So they use tools like SQLs, Excel sheets, range of data visualization tools like Tableau and Power BI definitely. So here we have a data engineers. Data engineers make sure that infrastructure to collect, transform, and pre-process the data. They use tools like Spark, ETL tools. Data engineers works on top of data version control tools. Data engineers works on top of feature stores, for example. So then we have our dear data scientist. Obviously, they are the one who builds ML model, correct? Which is going to be part of a final end product. Okay. So then comes research and applied scientist. So this role pretty much you don't see it many places. Organizations who are working on a cutting edge technologies, like we can talk about Amazon, Google. So majorly they will be working on a research part. They will be building new algorithms to the various problems they want to solve basically. Then comes our ML engineer. We call him himself as a deployment person. So ML engineers work will be overlapped with data engineers. They majorly focus largely on ML models and related infrastructures. They closely work with data scientists and they deploy ML model which is trained by our data scientists basically. So ML engineers integrate with CI/CD tools and they finally deploy the models to the infrastructure. So basically, when it comes to MLOps, we don't call themselves as a DevOps professional. We call themselves as a ML engineers. Basically, if you are a DevOps professional, you will be called as a ML engineer when it comes to ML industry. We don't call it as a DevOps, because DevOps is a term that is referred in a software basically. So then comes our fellow developers. What developers will do? So developers is our last piece of a puzzle. Obviously, they integrate everything that other team has built with a main application. They build beautiful web applications, Android applications, where our customers can use our ML models that we have deployed basically. And again, if you talk about in the perspective of MNCs, they have a dedicated role. You will see a dedicated role for data engineers, data scientists. You'll see a dedicated role for ML engineers. There are dedicated roles for MLOps engineers. We will talk about in detail in few minutes. But in few organizations, you will see that a lot of organizations, they hire both for data scientist and ML engineering together also. Okay, saying that, let's have a quick understanding, a quick difference between a DevOps and MLOps here. So we do understand DevOps is for building software, MLOps is for building and delivering your ML models. See, when it comes to DevOps, it always depends on building a generic application, building a software, delivering it to the production, building a new version, delivering it to the production. So here we use standard set of libraries. We use frameworks like Vue.js, HTML, JavaScript to build it. And here version controls involves tracking the changes in your code and artifacts that you have produced. Artifacts are something like, okay, you're building a software, let's say we are building a jar files, MSI, Windows installer files, the final software that I'm talking about, right? So then how do you validate? We do unit test. Probably we do multiple testing. I'm just giving one example here. So what are the different roles is involved here? Software engineers, we can say DevOps professionals. But when it comes to MLOps, we always build ML models to feed inferences. I mean, we build ML models to make predictions, obviously here. And here we depends on a broad scope of tools. We use various different tools, languages, and libraries. Just imagine if you are a data scientist, how many libraries do we use? sklearn, pandas, numpy, lot of different libraries. And when it comes to tools, like we use data version control tools, model artifacts, like model registries, source code version tools, and etc, etc. And our artifacts will be serialized files. And when it comes to validation, we validate our ML model based on a performance, right? And various different roles are involved here, but I just specifying one single role like data scientist and machine learning engineer, but all the roles that I specified here will be applied basically. Okay, saying that, let's move on to the another interesting part, different tools for MLOps. Okay, here we go, the most interesting part. Okay, perfect. We already done with 1 hour, and make sure you stay till end of this particular program so you can able to enjoy the awesome demo that I arranged, and you can also download the free ebooks. You can only enjoy this if you go to stay till end of this particular program. It's going to be more exciting. Let's get into the exciting part. Here we go. Here we go. You can check out the range of lot of different tools that are available in the market. Okay, so we use range of different tools. Let's say if you go for any different organization, they have a different requirements of the tools. So different tools for data versioning, code versioning, experiment tracking, model registries, and model monitoring. Okay, so to get a better clarity on this, all those tools, let me just try to open this in a web browser so we'll get some better clarity on what we are trying to see here. Here we go. Okay, here we go. So all we do in the process of building and delivering your ML models, so the life cycle looks like this. So data collection and labeling, data exploration, then we train our ML models, evaluate it, and model deployment. So these are the usual steps in the process of building an ML model. So there are a range of different tools that we do use in the MLOps maturity level. So otherwise MLOps stack maturity. Not every organization is going to use all those tools that I'm mentioning here. Depends on the maturity. As I mentioned, level 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So for example, when it comes to IDEs, where we want to write a code, obviously we use tools like Jupyter Notebooks, IntelliJ, or maybe Visual Studio Code, for example, right? So when it comes to code versioning, let's say our data scientists and data engineers write a lot of different code. We use GitHub, Bitbucket, and such other kind of tools, for example. So then comes data labeling. We want to label a data. Most of the times, let's say if you're working on a computer vision, right, supervised learning. So we want to label a data. We use various different tools for versioning your data, for example. Then comes data exploration and visualization. We want to explore a data. We want to visualize a data in order to understand a data, understanding if there is any outliers. A lot of different stuff. We use different tools like Matplotlib, Seaborn, Pandas for that, right? So when it comes to feature engineering, we use tools like sklearn, and we use commercial tools like, for example, feature tools, which is a commercial tool where you can able to pay a subscription for them and you can use it. Feast, which is again an open source tool, which is outside, very famous open source tool that is available outside for building a feature stores. For training your ML models, we use various different algorithms, isn't it? We use PyTorch, we do use sklearn, we use TensorFlow, various different algorithms to train your ML model. And For POC, let's say you have a build an ML model, but not MLOps pipeline, but let's say you want to do a quick POC, you want to check whether your models are working fine or not. We deploy our ML models on a Jupyter notebooks itself. Otherwise, we deploy our ML models on a platforms like Streamlit, and we try to understand that. So when it comes to model debugging and visualization, we have a range of visualization tools. Like we have open source tools like TensorBoard, weights and biases, for example. For hyperparameter tuning, we have a tuner, and Keras tuner can be a best example. And for experiment tracking, consider that your model training is an experiment, your data preparation is an experiment. So for that, we use very famous open source tools like MLFlow, for example. We are also going to learn MLFlow in our program, and it can be Neptune.ai, weights and biases can be other commercial tools. For model packaging, let's say you want to pack your ML model and you want to deploy it, we use TensorFlow or PyTorch package, or maybe TensorFlow package, or ONNX, or maybe you might use Kubeflow. Let's say you're looking for deploying your ML models on the Kubernetes platform, right? For model serving, we want to deploy our ML model. We might serve our ML model on a SageMaker, and pretty much various different deployment techniques that are available. So then comes workflow orchestration. So if we want to build this workflow, the pipeline, this is where we use tools like Apache Airflow. Kubeflow is again a very famous open source tool. ZenML, MetaFlow, there are such other kind of tools. For versioning your data, you can see that we mentioned about DVC, which is the exact tool that we want to learn in our program, which is called data version control tool. Still, you can use some tools from Git. It's called LFS, Git large files. For model registry, we talked about, okay, versioning your ML models is really important. There are a range of tools for that. MLFlow is pretty much famous. Neptune.ai is again a commercial tool. We have other commercial tools like Volohai. For example, you need to pay a subscription for them. For model monitoring, we have various different SDKs that we're going to talk about in cloud. There are SDKs on top of AWS, Azure, GCP. We're going to talk about open source tools like Evidently AI and something like that. For feature stores, you can use commercial feature stores like Tecton, SageMaker, Vertex AI on top of GCP, Azure Machine Learning Studio. So they have a different feature stores that we're going to talk about. Okay, so this is about the range of different tools that is available in the market. So yeah, saying that, now let us move on to the next particular slide, trying to understand. So what are the, let's say if you want to become a MLOps specialist, for example, MLOps specialization program that we are offering, it's an advanced level specialization program where you can become a specialist, where you can able to get a 360-degree view of MLOps, because this program covers AWS, Azure, GCP, and open source tools. Right, most of the organizations today, they use this 3 cloud platforms. Apart from that, they use open source tools, right? So let's say if you are picking a tool for an organization, you need to look think into this points basically. So are you going to for open source tools or closed source tools? Obviously, we understand that open source tools are always free and it is easy to integrate. But only problem with open source tools, let's say if you don't have a developers who have a good idea on this, it will be a difficult job. Otherwise, you can go for a platform versus specific tools. Let's say here I'm talking about a subscription tool. So when it comes to the cloud platform as a pay as you go, you have a full control on that. So you can also look for a subscription tools. There are private players outside who offers a MLOps tools for you. So then you need to look forward for a MLOps platform which offers model and production environment monitoring, which is really, really important, right? So you need to ensure that you can able to monitor your ML models in a production. You can able to monitor your environment that you are deployed to ensure your bugs are documented and fixed in the meantime. Then comes model templating and cataloging, which is a very important scenario. So consider that. See, today, consider that you might working in an organization where you built end-to-end MLOps pipelines and you deploy, and you don't want to reinvent the wheel again and again. So that's not the only MLOps project that you're going to work, but tomorrow you want to work for 100 projects, 100 pipelines that your organization want to build. So you don't want to reinvent a wheel again and again. So the MLOps platform that you're looking forward, you should have a capability to templating and cataloging, because you can able to use the same template again and again. You can replicate it again and again. So to build multiple MLOps pipelines for multiple projects. Then comes model training, tuning, and drift management. You should have a capability. I mean, the tool should have a capability to manage, let's say, an automated data preparation, model training, and model management. Basically, what I'm talking about, an automation here. So we don't want our data scientists or data engineers manually go and run the code. We want everything to happen automatically, right? So then comes pipeline management. intimating, alerting. For example, let's say there are various different stakeholders who are working here. So data preparation is the responsibility of a data engineer. Model training is responsibility of a data scientist. What happens if something goes wrong in a pipeline? We should have a capability to automatically alert, send a trigger to our data scientists, send a trigger to our data engineers. Your pipeline should have that particular capability. And then comes collaboration, communication capability is really, really important, because most of the time you will be talking to your data scientists, data engineers, ML engineers. You should have a good communication tool integrated where you can able to document commands, questions, and other notes. Consider that you can able to integrate messaging platforms like Slack. You can integrate with project management tools like Jira, for example, right? Something like that. So now let's get into the MLOps on top of the cloud platforms. Here in this particular MLOps specialization program, we'll be covering AWS, Azure, GCP. So why cloud platforms? First of all, right? So obviously we understand that AWS, Azure, and GCP, they are the major cloud platforms. I mean, they are the major cloud platforms who occupy majority of a market share basically. So most of the machine learning workloads today happens on these three cloud platforms, obviously on top of AWS, Azure, and GCP. Consider that in case if an organizations are not using AWS, Azure, or GCP, apart from that, they're going to use open source tools, right? A lot of different organizations, they do use open source tools because they can save a lot of money, right? So now let's try to understand what are the important tools that you need to really master in order to become a specialist, what we're going to learn in this particular program basically. In our specialization programs, we're going to get started with the Git based tools, the tools that is really important for versioning your code. So for example, we're going to cover source version control tools on all the cloud platforms. Like it can be open source tools like GitHub, Bitbucket, AWS code commit, GCP as cloud source repository, Azure as Azure repos. So then talking about CI/CD, we need to understand what is this CI/CD. Is basically a continuous integration and continuous deployment. So it's a practice that is followed in software delivery. If CI/CD is a practice that is used for delivering the new version of a software. Consider that, let's try to put it in this way. Consider that our software developer makes some changes to the code, he submits the code. What happens? Each and every time when a software engineer makes some changes, it triggers a build process. Basically, building is nothing but building a software. Consider that you're building a Java application. We want to make a jar file, basically that's a final software, right? So this is where we do a build process, right? Then finally we need to notify our software engineer if your build process is completed, correct? So once your build process is completed, we notify him. If it is failed, we also notify him. Then we do testing. So we do a lot of testing. We need to check, let's say we do unit test, UAT, a lot of different testings that we do in a software to ensure that every functionality of a software is working. And again, if a testing is passed, we also notify a testing team the testing is passed. Then finally, we go ahead and deploy the software to a production. Maybe I want to deploy it on a web server or something like that. It's the same kind of a workflow that we follow in our model delivery also, but let's try to understand in even more, providing one more example. Let's consider that we are talking about a simple DevOps pipelines here. Consider that we have a e-commerce website. Consider that we go to amazon.com. There is a button right now. Our customers are hitting a pay now button, which is in a green color. A pay now button is a green color. So now a pay now button is in the green color. Let's say it is not interesting. Let's say your internal team trying to change this green color button to a red color button because red is more attractive than a green color button. So what happens now? Our developer makes some changes to his code. For example, he changes a green color button to a red color button. So then he pushed the code to a code repository, that is GitHub. So what happens? So we use code pipelines. For example, this is a CI/CD tool on top of AWS. Each and every time when our developer makes some changes to the code, this kind of a tool has a capability to automatically capture. It will automatically understand, capture the changes our developer has made, and automatically it will start building your software. And again, we will be having a multiple branches here. As I mentioned, you will be having a different branch for dev, different branch for production. See, once our software is built, we produce artifact. Artifact is a final end product. So then this artifact has to be deployed. So let's say we want to deploy our web application to a web server, for example here. Okay, so here we might have a different environments as I'm talking about. First, initially we deploy our software to our dev environment. So here we come and verify whether our button has been changed from green to red. Yes, it has changed to red, and we will be coming and clicking it. We will do functionality testing, is it whether it is functioning properly or not. We do all the testings. And if you're really satisfied with your dev, then in the next process we will be also deploying the same features to our production, and now our production also serving a red color button. It's the same practice that we follow in MLOps also. Consider that we have a code repository. This is where our data scientists and data engineers, they will be submitting a code. Consider that once our data scientists or data engineers are making some changes to the code, when we have a MLOps pipeline, in our MLOps pipeline, the first process is we do a feature engineering, otherwise a data pre-processing. So once our data pre-processing is done, then our training, model training happens automatically. Notice one thing, you don't run any code here. So once our model training happens, we produce ML model, then we do evaluate our ML model. We test it, we ensure that your model is really good or not. And again, when it comes to condition step, otherwise this is what we call it as a quality gate. So here in a quality gate, we decide whether it is a good model, can be deployed to the production or not. As I mentioned, this is where we check the quality. Let's say we use this MSC score, for example. We check whether if my MSC score is less than or equal to 7. If it is less than or equal to 7, then it will register your ML model to a model registry, the place where we version our ML model. If it is not satisfying, we don't register our ML model, we simply neglect it. Then once you have a ML model in the model registry, we pick that ML model and we start building that ML model. Consider that we want to Dockerize our ML model. So this is where we Dockerize our ML model. And finally, we want to deploy our ML model. Consider that we want to deploy it on a model hosting platform, maybe container platform, maybe Kubernetes platform, maybe on an endpoint. And again, we have a same environments. We have a dev environment. Initially, we deploy our ML models to dev environments. Dev environments is not for your customers, it's only for your internal team. You come and manually verify whether your ML model is working perfectly fine as you intended. And if everything is okay, finally, we deploy the same ML model to a production. So now your customers comes here and they interact with your ML model basically. That's how it works. And finally, we also integrate model monitoring tools in order to monitor the ML model in a production. So for this, we're going to use various CI/CD tools when it comes to the cloud platform. So every cloud offers different CI/CD tools. We're going to talk about AWS code pipelines. We're going to talk about code build on top of GCP. We're going to talk about the Azure pipelines and entire suite of Azure tools. For example, Azure repos, Azure artifacts, Azure boards. When it comes to GCP, we have cloud build, cloud deploy, AWS as code commit and code build. We're going to talk about all these tools, not talk, building and live hands-on projects on top of it. Otherwise, let's say if your organization is looking for open source tools, for example, let's say we want to Dockerize, I want to deploy my ML model on a Kubernetes platform, Docker platform, or something, a Kubernetes platform on a cloud platforms like AWS or Azure or GCP. Yes, we do also cover Kubernetes from scratch, Dockers from scratch. Then comes model management tools. So this is where we talk about MLFlow, which is a very famous open source tool for model experimentation and for model registry. We're going to talk about DVC for versioning your data, or maybe Git large files. When it comes to feature stores, we're going to talk about a lot of different feature stores like SageMaker feature store, Vertex AI has its own feature store, and other commercial tools that is outside like Tecton, Upswork. And we're going to talk about Feast, which is very famous open source feature store where you can build your own feature store out of it. And again, talking about Databricks feature store, are using DynamoDB or S3 in AWS to build your own feature store. And finally comes cloud ML services. We're going to talk about Amazon SageMaker and SageMaker Studio to build end-to-end MLOps pipeline. I'm talking about the level 4 architecture, talking about using Vertex AI on top of GCP to build end-to-end MLOps project, and using Azure Machine Learning Studio to build end-to-end MLOps project. Consider you are an industry who don't use cloud platform, then you might use open source tools like Kubeflow, which is a platform that runs on a Kubernetes where you can able to build end-to-end MLOps pipeline completely open source. Then comes model monitoring. So this is really important because now what happens post deployment? See, your job never ends after deploying your ML model. The actual job starts after deploying your ML model. So here we need to monitor your ML models 24/7 based on your use case. We're going to talk about SDKs, which is provided by us, all these cloud platforms, in order to monitor your ML models like data drift, concept drift, accuracy, data quality monitoring, all this stuff. And we're going to also talk about very famous open source tools like Evidently AI that you can able to use it for doing data quality monitoring, data drift, concept drift, and bias on your data, a lot of different stuff. And this is a program which is also inclusive of an AutoML tools, basically the commercial tools that are outside. So talking about tools like Azure, Domino Data Labs, Ola High, weights and biases, and we'll be also planning for providing a demo on top of it. Then comes post deployment challenges. Okay, we have deployed our ML model. What are the challenges we have? So here we will be having a challenges related to software engineering, ML engineering, and challenges related to edge deployment also. Let's say there are software engineering related challenges and ML engineering related challenges like quality of your ML model, and you have issues with your infrastructure that is related to software engineering, auto scalability, auto scaling, reducing a latency in your ML models, basically managing a latency, just reducing the amount of time that takes to prediction, those stuff. Okay, saying this is what it takes to become a specialist in MLOps. And here we go. Now we are moving to the next phase in our demo session. That's a live demo that I've arranged on top of AWS. Let's get started now. Here we go. So here you are seeing the screen of my SageMaker Studio where I have built end-to-end MLOps pipeline. Okay, here you can see that I'm a root directory of my project. You can see I have a repositories. We start from a repositories. We have two different repositories, one for model building and another one is for model deployment. So this is where I have my source code. So I will go to a pipelines that I have built. If I double click and if I go to my pipelines, you can see I have one pipeline execution. So this is where I have my pipeline. So this is how my pipeline graph looks like. So initially I start with pre-processing my data. That's what we do, right? Let's say if I click on my pre-processing step, if I go and check my output, see, what do we do in pre-processing your data? If you're a data scientist, you know that. If you're an ML engineer, you know that. As part of a data pre-processing, all we do is split the data, right? Here you can see that I'm splitting my data into training data, validation data, and testing data, and storing it in some kind of a storage platform in AWS. We call it as S3. So then comes, once our pre-processing is done, then comes training. So here basically we are training an abalone model. If you don't know what is abalone, it's some kind of a seafood variety. Basically the goal here we are solving is to predict the age of an abalone, right? The age depends on the age of an abalone. The price in the market will be decided. Okay, if it's a pretty much young age, you'll be getting a different price. If it's an older price, if it is an older abalone, you'll get a different price in the market. So that's how it works. So as part of a model training, what happens? We produce an ML model, and again we do calculate metrics. You can see as part of a training your ML model, you can see that I have calculated my RMSE score, that is root mean square error value, on my training data set and root mean square error value on a validation data set. And here is your ML model. When it comes to AWS SageMaker produces a model as a tar file. So inside this, you can able to find your pickle file basically. And again, this is stored in a S3 bucket, which is a storage platform. See, the next step in the workflow is evaluating your ML model. So basically, you need to evaluate whether it is a good model. You need to calculate a lot of different metrics like MSE score, standard deviation. You can calculate all this stuff. I have calculated all these metrics. I created a JSON object or JSON file. I am storing that JSON file in a S3 bucket. Then comes check MSE abalone evaluation. This is what I am talking about, the quality gate. So by using this quality gate, I decide whether it is a good model. Can I go ahead and deploy it to the production or not? So right now you can see that my check MSE abalone evaluation is true. That means my actual score is my MSE score that I'm talking about. It is less than or equal to 7 or 6. Consider that it is less than or equal to 7. So that's why the condition is satisfied. That's why it is registering my ML model to model registry. Let's say if I clicking on my model registry, as part of our output, you can see that my MSE score is 4.01. Obviously, right? So 4.01 is less than or equal to 7, right? So that's why it has deployed registered my ML model to model registry. So that's how it happens. So now, once my model has been registered to my model registry, the next process is we need to go ahead and deploy my ML model. So before that, you can see that we have experiments. As I'm talking about, experiments are something what we have done. So basically, we have done 3 experiments. Data pre-processing is an experiment, model training is an experiment, model evaluation is an experiment. So basically, there are 3 experiments that we have conducted here. Okay. So now let me go to my model groups. In SageMaker Studio, we call it as a model group. So otherwise it's a model registry. Okay. So now you can see that I have one model registry. If I go inside that, you can see that I have one ML model that I have trained in previous 1 hour ago. You can see that I have a version 1. Obviously right now I have a version 1. I don't have version 2. If I execute this pipeline again, this will produce the version 2. And you can see the status of this ML model is pending manual approval. As I mentioned, I don't want to automatically deploy my ML model. Instead, I want to manually go ahead and approve this ML model. I have a senior data scientist who want to go and evaluate the model. And finally, we want to deploy. As I mentioned, here we are talking about deploying your ML model to both production and production environment, also to the dev environment, as we're discussing in this particular slide. The first process, I'm going to show you how to deploy this ML model to dev environment first. Okay, I'm going to click on version 1. And you can see that my version 1 is pending. I'm going to go to click actions in the top right corner. I'm going to say that update status. I'm going to update the status to approved. Once I click on approved, you can see that it opens this approval window. Here I can say some commands. Okay, as a data scientist, I have checked it, I approved it, whatever it is, and I can save and update. That's it. So now you can see that what I'm trying to do, actually I have deployed my ML model to a dev environment. Okay, that's awesome. You can see my model has been approved right now. Okay, see what happens in the next few minutes. It's going to create a endpoint. So right now, if I come to my endpoint section, I don't have any endpoint. So endpoint is nothing but the customer facing endpoint. By using this HTTP as endpoint, our developers are going to create a web application, an Android application, whatever it is, basically. Okay, it's going to take few minutes in order to deploy my ML model to endpoint. So let's wait. Okay, so make sure you stay till end of this particular program, because still we have around 45 minutes to complete the program, so you can able to enjoy. I'm going to also make a predictions through the model that I have deployed, so you can able to enjoy, and you can also download the free ebooks, and more importantly, you can ask a lot of questions. Okay, saying that, let's wait for a few minutes in order to check if whether your model is being deployed or not. In the meantime, let's move on with our slides. Okay, let's try to go to the next third thing that we want to understand, MLOps job industry. So how does this MLOps job industry looks like? Okay, so for example, we are talking about MLOps here. Who should learn MLOps? Who will be part of MLOps? Who should learn MLOps? What, for example, when I'm talking about MLOps specialization program. So are you someone who is part of building ML projects? Are you a data scientist? Yes, you can take this program. Are you a data engineer or a data analyst? Yes, you can take this program. Are you a research or applied scientist? Are you an ML engineer? Are you a DevOps engineer? Yes, you can take this program. Are you an aspiring MLOps professional enthusiast? This is the program for you. Are you a machine learning professional looking for how to learn how to deploy your ML models to production? You are the best person to get started with this particular program. Are you someone who's looking for learning how to use Docker, Kubernetes, AWS, Azure, GCP, DVC, Feast, MLFlow, such kind of a tools to learn how MLOps works? So you are the person to get started with this particular program. Are you an individual, someone who is interested in AI and data? You are the person who can able to get started with this particular program. So let's try to get some numbers here. Okay, let's try to get into some reality. Okay, so what happens after you upgrading your skills on top of MLOps, how it's going to be benefited for you. So if you are someone who have at least a minimum of 2 to 3 years of experience, an average salary for someone who has a 2 to 3 years of experience in India, I'm talking about in India, according to sixfigure.com, it starts from 23.1 lakhs in India. This I'm pointing towards someone who has a 2 to 3 years of experience. Consider that your experience goes up more than 2 to 3 years experience, you'll be lying to this particular slab. So 33% comes under 10 to 20 lakhs, 42% of people comes into 20 to 30 lakhs, 25% of people comes into 30 to 40 lakhs and more, obviously. And obviously there is no doubt about that. MLOps job vacancy trends picking up right now, but the only difference is today you need MLOps skills. And again, if you go and check out any job description today, consider that you're applying for data science or ML engineering, you definitely see, okay, do you have a skills on CI CD? Are you good at Docker, Kubernetes, MLFlow, something on AWS, Vertex AI, SageMaker Studio? Do you have a skill to build that pipelines? Because so today, every data engineers, data scientist, consider them, they have a good knowledge in how to build ML model, pre-processor data, but what they're really missing is the productionizing this ML model. Today, considering the data, what we have discussed, today no more organizations are looking for just building an ML models for a couple of years because they want to get into the production. They want to make some money. They want to reach their customers. What makes them happen is basically this building this MLOps pipelines basically. So if you can able to build this MLOps pipelines for an organization, they can able to reach the success, right? Saying that, so let's go ahead and let's check what's happening in our deployment process. Okay, here we go. You can see that my ML model has been deployed to my dev environment. That's awesome. If I go to this ML model and you can see this is my endpoint, and if I go to the settings, this is the HTTPS REST API that your developers are going to use in order to make predictions. Okay, so now I'm going to go to this Jupyter notebooks that I have. I'm going to quickly show you how to make up predictions with it. Okay, you can see that I have already mentioned my endpoint name here. This is my endpoint that I've already deployed to my dev environment. I'm going to quickly hit run and let's see whether it makes any predictions. And you can see it says 7.6s. This is what I'm talking about. This is actually, I'm making an inference. I'm generating a predictions from my ML model that I've deployed to my dev, not to production. Basically, it's predicting the age of an abalone. So age of an abalone is 7.66. Abalone is a seafood. Basically, it's a sea snail, right? So this is about it. Okay, so now you understand how to deploy this ML model to dev. The next step, I'm going to show you how to deploy this ML model to production. If you want to deploy your ML model to production, you need to use AWS code pipelines, which is a CI/CD tool. Here we need to deploy our, we need to go to this portal and we want to deploy our ML model here. We have a pipeline that we have built, and here you can see that there is a one pipeline in a progress. If I go to that particular pipeline, and here you can able to see the actual pipeline that I have built. You can see that here we have a source code. This is where our code is coming from, our code repository. And this is where I'm building my ML model. And this is where I am deploying my ML model. You can see in the deployment process, there is a testing stage. Currently, I'm doing testing my ML model. Finally, we can able to approve our ML model to be deployed to a production. Okay, in order to deploy our ML model to production, we will come back later. So now we will talk about our actual program. Okay, so let's get started with a very interesting part that we are waiting for pretty much longer time. And before that, we need to pretty much seriously think about one single aspect. What's really happening in the industry? The speed of a transformation. Consider that everything started last 10 years ago. We're talking about data science, machine learning, artificial intelligence. Today we are talking about MLOps. We are talking about generative AI, we are talking about LLMs, a lot of different stuff. And this transformation is happening pretty much faster. A quick example is, consider that, okay, there is around 2009, consider that all the movie makers, news reporters goes in the choppers just to shoot a movie or maybe a news clip. And you can see this industry completely got transformed just in 10 years once the drones has been integrated. Okay, so it's really a time right now for you to quickly upgrade. And so obviously our MLOps specialization program can quickly help you get started. Okay, let's talk about our actual program, which you guys are waiting for pretty much longer time. So we are getting started with this complete a specialization program, an advanced level, a specialist level program starting from September 30th. Yes, not pretty much long time. So we'll be starting with from September 30th. So this is going to be for 7 to 8 weekend session. 7 weekends we can consider right now. It's a 7 weekends program starting from every Saturday and Sunday. Every Saturday, Sunday we'll be having a program. Every weekend around 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. Let's say you're joining from India. The timing will be 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. We'll be having a live instructor lead interactive session. And let's say you're joining from EST time zone, you will be having a session from 9:30 to 1:30, and if you're from CET, it will be 3:30 for you. It will be starting. Okay, so how our structure of a program works is something like this. So it's not a session where you just come and listen and go. It's not a webinar or a seminar. It's a completely hands-on session. 85% of our curriculum that we have is a live hands-on session. That means most of the time that you're going to spend with me during a session is building a lot of projects. So every weekend we'll be having a live sessions. Every Monday you will be getting an access to the recordings of it, and every Tuesday or Wednesday or a Thursday we will be having an optional debugging sessions. This debugging sessions are optional to attend. For example, consider that during a live session you'll be following a step-by-step instruction that I am showing on my screen on your screen. So that's how it works. So if you have any bugs, some errors that you couldn't resolve during a live session, you can join a debugging session. It's going to be one-on-one. You will be sharing your screen where I will be assisting you fix the problem. As I mentioned, MLOps specialization program is inclusive of 3 different cloud platforms: AWS, Azure, GCP, and open source tools. We used to call it as a 360-degree view of MLOps. How? Because let's say these 3 cloud platforms are the major cloud platforms where most of the ML workloads run today. And this, you are creating an opportunity for yourself to work for any different organization. That means you can apply for a lot of different varieties of jobs outside. And even though organizations are not using these cloud platforms, they will be using open source tools. And in this program, it's going to be for around 70 hours program, putting everything together. And there are more than 50 plus live hands-on labs, 10 plus real-time projects. Consider that we'll be building at least 1 real-time project on every cloud platform. 1 DevOps project will be built. Yes, we have to learn DevOps, CI/CD tools before we getting into MLOps. We do also cover DevOps here. And for MLOps, we'll be building at least 1 real-time projects on every cloud platform, the end-to-end level 4 architecture. So on cloud, AWS, GCP, Azure, and at least 1 project on every open source tools, talking about Dockers, learning how to deploy ML model, building ML model, Dockerizing it, deploying ML model on a Kubernetes, hands-on top of MLFlow, hands-on top of DVC, and more. Saying that, what is the pricing for this particular program? So the long awaiting for this particular thing, let's get started. So we have not 1 pricing plan, we have 3 different pricing plans. Okay, so you know what is the actual pricing in the market starts for MLOps specialization programs. It actually starts from 50 to 60,000 rupees, but we are not in that place where we want to offer the highest price. We want to make it more comfortable. We have 3 different pricing plans. You can choose what exactly you want from this particular program. Pretty much simple. So we have advanced plus plan, which is starting from 47,999, and we do offer various different features from it. So let me just explain one by one for you. So then we have advanced plan, which is costing 41,999. Then we have a basic plan, 39,999. What? 3 different pricing plans? Why? You might ask a question, right? So here, this program is more customized, so you can able to take what exactly you want, right? So consider that you're only interested in upgrading your skills. Let's say you want to attend live sessions, you want to take access to the recordings, you want to attend debugging sessions, for example, some other free resources and community support. You can just go for a basic plan. So basic plan will help you to upgrade your skill, access to the recordings, doubt clearing sessions, all this stuff. But if you go for advanced or advanced plus plan, this is where an added benefits comes into the picture. Obviously, live sessions, access to the recordings, and debugging sessions are pretty much common in advanced and advanced plus, but you get some premium features here. For example, here we have a premium features, that is advanced plus. Advanced plan comes with resume preparation support, 6 months of technical job support, and then comes bonus reattendance opportunity. Let me just explain in a step by step. So what is this resume preparation and 6 months of technical job support? There are 2 categories of participants who always attend our sessions, mostly working professionals who ranging from 2 to 3 years of experience to 18 to 20 years of experience. Okay, considering them, let's say one categories of participants, they comes in a goal. Let's say I want to complete this program, then I want to apply for a better opportunity with a better pay scale. So how are we helping them? First thing, we help them optimize their resume considering their current experience and what they can update as part of a MLOps. After that, let's say you go and apply for any different job opportunities outside. What we do here specifically when it comes to the 6 months of technical job support, let's say the first step in an interview, let's say your resume will be shortlisted, correct? The next step, you will go for a interview round, a technical round. So before you going for a technical round, we will ask you, let's sit for a discussion. We will be helping you to decode your job description. We will go through a job description. We will help you understand what is the job description, what are they looking forward, how does this interview going to look for you, what are the questions that you can able to expect, and what are the projects that you have specified in your resume, how are you going to validate in front of them. So we're going to provide this particular insights, and it is working for our participants. We have in our current batch, we just done with our current batch last 3 weekends ago, we have participants being placed. That's pretty much awesome. They are being pretty much helpful. We will also share a testimonials, the videos, you can also check that later. Then comes a pretty much awesome feature. It's called bonus reattendance opportunity. So what is this bonus reattendance opportunity? Is nothing but if you register for advanced plan, you get twice the opportunity to take the program. Consider that you're attending our September batch. Even after you completing a September batch, you can also retake this program completely for free in our next batch. Consider that our next batch might happen in December. You can register for next batch completely for free. That's how it works. So when it comes to our advanced plus plan, obviously all the features in advance is covered, but instead of you getting 6 months of job support, you get 1 year of job support. Bonus reattendance opportunity is also part of it. But the more interesting part in advanced plus plan is instant access. Consider that today is the date is 6th, and still we have more than 25 days for the program. And again, even the program starts, it goes for next 2 months. So you don't want to wait till end of this program. You can get started with the program in next 24 hours itself. See what happens once you complete a program. Consider that you're completing a program today. In next 24 hours, you get complete access to the recordings of our previous batch with the support. I mean, you get access to the recordings with the support from us. You can get started with this program immediately, and if you have any questions further, if you have doubts, you can just ping us immediately. That's how it works. Let's say you're looking for a pricing in USD. For our advanced plus plan, the pricing would be $699. For our advanced plan, the pricing will be $599 only. For our basic plan, the pricing will be $549. But it won't be a surprise. I mean, it won't be fun without a surprise, right? Because you guys have spent your valuable 2 hours with me, obviously, initial every campaign. So we do provide offers only for first 10 registrations. Okay, the peoples who are lucky enough to stay till end of this particular program, they can enjoy this surprise. So what we used to call, it's called free upgradation offer till 11th of September, not for a long time, very strictly till 11th of September. Are you excited to know about this? Yes. Before that, so usually working professionals, they take either advanced or maybe advanced plus plan. So that's a pattern that we have seen. They take either advanced or advanced plus plan. You know that advanced plan is costing 41,999, and we have advanced plus which is costing 47,999. So what is this free upgradation offer that I'm talking about? All you need to do, are you interested in advanced plan which is costing 41,999? Don't register for advanced plan. All you need to do, register for a basic plan which is costing just 39,999. We will be upgrading you to advanced plan completely for free if you register before 11th of September. Only before 11th of September, you'll be saving around 2,000 rupees in that registration. This applies for international parts in USD also, basically. Okay, so otherwise, are you interested in advanced plus plan? Are you interested in getting started with the recordings immediately? All you need to do, register for advanced plan. If you need advanced plus, just do register for advanced plan, which is costing 41,999 only. And we will be upgrading you to advanced plus plan completely for free, and the amount that you're going to save is 6,000 rupees is the amount that you're going to save. We will be upgrading you to advanced plus plan. You can get started with the recordings pretty much immediately. So that's how it works, and this is only till 11th of September. And why do you think Citron Technologies is the best person where we can able to get started? And again, this is not a first time we are conducting this program. For this year itself, this is the 5th batch we are conducting, and all those batches are pretty much awesome. We got an awesome positive feedback, and again, we are based out of Bangalore, India. We've been supported by Government of India, incubated in PSG STEP, and we've been funded by Nidhi ER, Government of India, and we've been awarded in many international stages. You can just check all those details, and you can check all this valuable testimonials that is provided by our participants. You don't wait for a few minutes. I will be immediately registering for this particular program. So please go ahead and check these testimonials. I will be sharing it in a few minutes. Okay, saying that, you can also check other testimonials. You can check our participants. You don't believe, like, we have our participants who have got an 100% hike after completing MLOps specialization program. Basically, we'll also share all these testimonials. You can able to check it. Okay, perfect. Saying this, now it's time finally to check our curriculum. So what exactly we've been offering, I'm not going to take much of your time. Still, we have 15 minutes more to get started with this particular program. Let's quickly check out the curriculum. You can also download the curriculum that we're going to cover. Here we go. I'm going to share this PDF for you guys in a few minutes. You can able to download. Make sure you stay till end of this program so you can download a free ebooks. And there's a one more demo, because still we haven't deployed our ML model to production, and still you can ask a lot of questions. Okay, perfect. So let's get started with this curriculum, because in this particular curriculum, everything is included. You can check who can apply, program fee, testimonials, the videos that I'm talking about. You can also go ahead and check it out here. You can just click on this videos. It will be redirected to YouTube automatically. You can check the testimonials over there itself. Okay, perfect. So now let's talk about our curriculum without wasting much of our time. Let me just quickly open a curriculum. Perfect. Here we go. Okay. Okay, so now let me just go to my curriculum. So there are totally 13 modules, 13 modules that we're going to cover. The first module is Introduction to MLOps. This is where we dive deep into everything about MLOps in this world. So understanding what is MLOps, understanding the motivation, the challenges, the MLOps component, the life cycle, and more importantly, understanding all the different types of ops. What is this DevOps? What is this AI ops, what we're talking about? What is this model ops? What is this GitOps, right? So then talking about the CI/CD in production case study. So here we're going to talk about various different organizations. We're going to talk about the real architecture, how they have implemented MLOps pipelines on top of AWS, Azure, GCP, and how they are implementing open source tools also. Pretty much value add thing. Then comes module number 2. Here we're going to discuss about introduction to MLOps and ML, introduction to ML and MLOps stages. Here, this is a place where we're going to talk about this maturity level. So not every organization going to implement level 4 architecture. They're going to implement level 3, level 2. How are you going to implement it? What are the differences in that? Talking about various different versioning of data, code, containers, different stuff, testing, CI/CD, reproducibility, deployment, monitoring, all those stuff. And this is where we're going to talk about the architectures, the MLOps open source architectures, MLOps cloud-based architectures. So when it comes to the architectures open source, we're going to talk about Kubeflow, very powerful tool, talking about Kubeflow, and then talking about Apache AirFlow from Apache. So then talking about very famous open source tool, that is MLFlow, MetaFlow, Kedro, ZenML, MLRun, and CML. When it comes to architectures on top of a cloud platform, we're going to talk about how you can able to build end-to-end MLOps pipeline on top of AWS, Azure, and GCP. These are the same architectures what other organizations are implementing today, and they are being successful. Then talking about module number 3, this is where we're going to get started with Git. As I mentioned, we will be doing real-time projects, hands-on on top of Git, how to use Git, how to work with commands, all those stuff, how to version a code. Then comes module number 4, introduction to CI/CD. This is where we're going to get started with a DevOps. Obviously, we need to understand how DevOps work before we getting started with MLOps. So here, we going to learn DevOps tools on top of every cloud platform. So here we're going to talk about AWS DevOps. We're going to build project on top of it, DevOps pipelines. We're going to talk about GCP DevOps. We're going to build live hands-on project on top of it. We're going to talk about Azure DevOps, the entire suite of Azure DevOps. We're going to talk about building real-time projects on top of it. Then comes module number 5, the most interesting thing, that is Dockers and Kubernetes. We're going to talk about Dockers and Kubernetes from scratch. We're going to learn from scratch. Not only that, learning how to Dockerize your ML model and deploying your ML model on a Docker platform. Talking about Kubernetes, building live project on top of Kubernetes, building your ML models, Dockerizing it and deploying it on a Kubernetes clusters. How are we going to do that will be taught to you in a live project. Then comes module number 6, Kubernetes deployment strategies. Here we're going to understand how you can able to build and deploy your ML models on a Kubernetes clusters that is managed by a cloud platforms. Then comes module number 7. This is where we're going to talk about model management. Here we're going to talk about data versioning, code versioning, experiment tracking, model registries, and model monitoring. Specifically, here we're going to talk about MLFlow. As I mentioned, MLFlow is part of it. We're going to deploy MLFlow stack on any one of the cloud, and we also building, training, and deploying your ML model through MLFlow. And again, talking about DVC will be covered, understanding how to versioning your data with hands-on projects. And again, Git large files will be also covered. Then comes module number 8, feature store. Again, you can see that it is exactly like the architecture that we have discussed. So feature store, we're going to talk about various different feature stores outside in the market. Talking about SageMaker feature store, Vertex AI feature store, Databricks feature store, Tecton, Feast, HubSpot, all this stuff. And again, in our program, we're going to use Feast, which is very famous open source feature store, to build end-to-end feature store for us. Then comes module number 9, Cloud ML 101. This is where we're going to build end-to-end MLOps pipelines on top of every cloud platforms. So here we're going to build end-to-end level 4 architecture on top of Amazon SageMaker Studio, obviously. And we will be also learning about Vertex AI on top of GCP, Google Cloud Platform. We'll be using Vertex AI to build end-to-end the level 4 architecture, the MLOps pipeline. When it comes to Azure, we're going to use Azure Machine Learning Studio. Azure Machine Learning Studio has MLOps version 2 architecture, which is currently being used by every different organization, the level 4 architecture again. Then comes module number 10, Kubeflow. Yes, Kubeflow is part of a program. Here we'll be teaching you how to deploy a Kubeflow, along with that how to build end-to-end MLOps pipelines on top of a Kubeflow, both infrastructure deployment and again building, training, and monitoring your deploying your ML models there. Then comes module number 11, introduction to model monitoring. So this is where we're going to do a lot of hands-on in terms of discussing various different SDKs, which is provided by AWS, Azure, GCP, how you can able to monitor your ML models, data drift, concept drift, quality of your data, or biases on top of your data, all those stuff. And again, hands-on will be done with a real-time project on monitoring your ML models. Then comes module number 2, talking about AutoML tools, like commercial tools like H2O, MLOps, Velohigh, Dominant Data Labs. These guys here, at least a demo will be planned on top of this commercial tools. Then comes module number 13, the final module, which is post-deployment challenges. See what happens after deploying your ML model. How do you take care about a scalability? How do you manage the latency? How do you manage your load balancing, right? How do you monitor your ML model? Those kind of stuff will be discussed here. So here we'll be using Evidently AI, which is very powerful open source tool in order to monitor your ML models by using open source tools. Okay, that's awesome, right? It's an awesome curriculum. So then if you scroll down, you'll get the skills that you're going to master from this particular program, starting from Git DevOps for MLOps, Git, GitHub, AWS code pipelines, all GCP based DevOps tools, all Azure based DevOps tools, Kubernetes, MLFlow, Evidently AI, and such other kind of tools. And here are the tools that we're going to cover in this particular program, the tools related to AWS, Azure, GCP, open source tools like Feast, Kubernetes, Dockers, Kubeflow, DVC, GitHub, MLFlow, or maybe talking about commercial tools like Domino Data Labs, or maybe Tecton HubSpot, Apache Airflow, yes, evidently, and other such kind of tools. And again, you can also check the pricing details in this particular curriculum, the every features that you have mentioned, and you can also get the detailed description of all the features that we're offering. So what is resume preparation, job support, what we do. And if you further scroll down, you can get the testimonials of our previous batch participants. You can listen to them, you can get better clarity, and you can also check the screenshots of our feedbacks from our WhatsApp. So this is it. And so now let me just quickly share you the links where you can able to download all these things, and as I promised, the free ebooks. So make sure you stay till end of this program, because still we have to discuss a lot of things. I will be opening a session for Q&A. The first links that I'm going to share in a chat window, it's going to be a registration links. Perfect. So the first link that I have already shared the links. The first link that I shared in a chat window, it will be a registration link. The second link where you can able to download a curriculum, the same PDF that I'm showing here, you can able to download just clicking that link. And the third link where you can able to download the free ebooks as I promised. And below is the contact informations. So if you guys have any questions, definitely you will have. If you need any personal assistance, if you want to ensure that you are a right person to take this program or not, you need some assistance before you getting started with this program, please do call this number, so where I can give you some consulting before you getting started with this particular program. Okay, so here we have a testimonials. I will also share you the testimonials. I will copy those testimonials, a YouTube video. You can, so the next couple of links that I shared is where you can able to watch this the testimonials from our participants. Okay, saying that now, so before that, we will go forward to our demo, because we will complete that, then we will come back. Okay, so here we go. Now we are back to our demo, and so now you can see that this is our pipeline, and you can see that it is waiting for me to deploy this ML model. All I need to do in order to deploy this ML model, I just need to click on this review button. It opens a pop-up, as I mentioned, a similar screen what we had in SageMaker Studio. And here, as a senior data scientist, or anyone who is responsible for deploying your ML model, I can put a command. I can simply say approve. Okay, so now you can see that now I approved my ML model to be deployed to a production. So now it is getting deployed to a production. So now I can go back to my studio. I can also monitor in few minutes. It will update that our models are getting deployed to production. I will also show you how to generate predictions on our production ML model also. Okay, saying that now I will officially open a session. Okay, now you can see the changes. Now our ML model is getting deployed to production right now. I will officially open a session for Q&A. So please make sure you unmute your mic. You can talk to me. You can mention your questions in a chat window. I'm all here to answer your questions. Okay, please go ahead. So now you can talk to me. Please go ahead. So now let me just go back to my slide. We can talk. Perfect. So when you're talking, you can just please do mention your name and what you do. Then you can ask your questions. Please go ahead. You can also please do mention your questions in the chat window. I'm here to also answer you.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, perfect, fair enough. Please let me know your name. Yes, you're audible. Please go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, you're audible. Please go ahead. Yes.
Yeah. So my name is Ashish.
Yes, go ahead.
My question is with respect to students who are already currently doing a data science course, who are
Perfect.
in the middle of it. Of course, I see there is a benefit because has been this conversation about how data science teams are now hiring MLOps engineers in bulk,
Yep.
because that's where the
Yep.
need is. You can have now there are data scientists in the teams who are able to write, you know, a model, who are able to complete the model, but still there are very few people in the team who can actually
Yeah.
productionize. So I do understand that. How does,
Perfect.
based on this all this perspective, how, how would you recommend for someone who's in the middle of this course to take up this course? Is it going to benefit now, or should someone wait for finish the fin- you know to finish their data science course then get onto this?
Perfect. Okay, here is a good, that's a good question that you asked. Let me just quickly provide you clarity. So here, this is a program. It's not just for a data scientist. Consider that we have a DevOps professionals here. Consider that when it comes to DevOps professionals, so they're not transforming their jobs here into data scientists or data scientists or maybe data engineers. So here DevOps professionals, they're going to become ML engineers. See what happens, let's say if you're a data scientist, yes, you should have a good knowledge of algorithms, the Python programming, all those stuff. But that's not only, it's not going to get you a job today in a market. You can see that no industries right now currently, okay, just they want to build ML model only because they want to get into the production. So today, if you go and check any job descriptions for ML engineering and data science, you have the CI/CDs, MLFlow, Kubeflow, Doc has been mentioned in this particular program. So yes, if anyone who has a good idea, let's say if you are a data scientist, if you have a good idea of an algorithm, Python programming, you could able to build a simple ML model. Yes, you can. That's a bare minimum thing. If you say you are a data scientist, you should have a good knowledge on Python. If you have a good knowledge on algorithms, yes, you can get started with this particular program. You don't need to be an expert in data science over there. That's a perspective. But let's say when it comes to our DevOps professionals here, you guys are not transforming yourself into data scientists, or you are not transforming yourselves into data engineers. So you guys are DevOps professionals, you are transforming yourself into ML engineering. So still, let's say you will be managing a CI/CD pipelines, you will be deploying an ML models, but you will be working most on the deployment side. But that doesn't mean that you should not have any awareness on what is exactly your data scientist or ML data engineer doing. Consider that if you are a DevOps professional, you're working in a software industry, and you cannot say that I have no idea what is our software engineers are doing. You have a pretty much good idea what is our software engineers are doing, and you're aware about it. That's how you can able to work in your DevOps pipelines. Similar, the same stuff applies here. If DevOps professionals are taking this particular program, so here you will be getting a good awareness what is our data scientist is doing, what is our data engineers are doing basically. Okay, so and this is not a program where you learn data science. No, we don't teach data science here. No, we don't teach data engineering here. We don't teach Python programming here. Okay, so here it is purely related to MLOps. I guess this also answers the question of one of our participants who asked a question right now, obviously. Yeah, perfect. So please go ahead. The next person can ask the question. Unmute your mic, you can now talk. Okay, here we have a Nag in a chat window. He asked a question: how AI ops is different than ML ops? Okay, AI ops is pretty much different. Okay, putting it in a very simplest layman terms, AI ops is all about using AI to automate your IT operations. What do you mean by that? Let me just provide you a quick example. So consider that, let's say we use AI tool. Let's consider that we use ChatGPT, which is already built, right? I use ChatGPT to automate any one of the IT operations in my daily job, that is called AI ops. Consider that I might integrate my ChatGPT with my support, right? Consider that I'm from an e-commerce website. A lot of customers want to talk to us. They want to just check what's happening, what's the new updates. I will simply integrate ChatGPT with my support, so ChatGPT can take care about the support. So that's pretty much AI ops basically. Yeah, please go ahead, folks, ask your questions. And again, let me just repeat the offer that we have. This is very strictly till 11th of September. So we have 3 different pricing plans. If you're looking for, let's say, advanced, basic, or advanced plus. So let's say we have 3 different pricing plans: basic, advanced, or advanced plus. So let's say as part of a free upgradation offer, let's say all you need to do, register for basic plan, you get upgraded to advanced plan completely for free. So this is strictly till 11th of September. Let's say if you're looking for advanced plus plan, all you need to do, register for advanced plan, and we will be upgrading you to advanced plus completely for free. So that's how it works. And please go ahead, ask your question, unmute your mic. Otherwise, if you have any questions, feel free to mention it in the chat window. Please go ahead. I have already shared the links once again. The first link is for registration, the second link where you can download a curriculum, the third link where you can download a free ebooks, and the below is the contact information of mine. Yeah. Yep. Ask your next question. So I'm going to spare a few more minutes. In the meantime, you guys ask a question. Let me just quickly go and check in my portal. You can see that my model has been already deployed to my production environment. That's good. I will just go and copy my endpoint. I will also go to my script here, which I'm going to use it for invoking my ML model. I'm going to save it. I'm going to simply run it. Okay, here we go. So obviously we have a same ML model, which is deployed for both dev and production. Obviously, it could be able to make the same prediction, 7.66. That's the actual predictions that is as made. So this is about the demo. And now please do ask your question. If you have anything to discuss, anything else that you want to discuss into your career, this is the time. Please do utilize it. Ask your question. Yep. So we have a lot of peoples. Hey, Abhishek, AJ, Akhil, Amir, Anand, Aravind, Anish asked a question, I guess. Chaitanya, Deepak, Dinesh, yeah, Ivan, Karthik, Kumar, Mohammed, Murthy, Radhika, Raghu. Please do ask your questions if you have anything specific to this particular program. Yeah. So let me just quickly repeat. So the last date for free upgradation is till 11th of September only, and so this program is basically a 70 hours program, which is starting from 30th of September, and yes, it's going to be for every weekends. So every weekend we'll be having a live session every Saturday, Sunday, starting from 7 p.m. IST to 11 p.m. IST. And every Monday we'll be receiving an access to recordings, and every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday we'll be having optional debugging sessions. If you have any errors, bugs that you couldn't resolve it in a live session, you can join a debugging session basically. Yes, Anish is asking a question. Can I get the recordings of this demo session? Yes, you will be get access to those recordings by tomorrow morning. You'll be having access. Okay, here we have Akhil asked a question. How would it help in a career transition of a non-technical person who had a 4 to 10 years of experience in healthcare domain with 10-month career gap? Okay, so Akhil, so if you can able to talk, we can have a quick chit chat so I can able to evaluate whether you will be fitted for this particular program or not. Let's say, for example, if you say that I have no idea on data science, I have no idea on DevOps, data engineering, programming. No, this is not a program for you. Okay, so Dinesh asked a question. Any prerequisites? That's a good question, Dinesh. Okay, so please make sure you talk. Okay, just mention something in a chat window if you want to ask. Okay, so just think, take your time. I'm going to spend a few more minutes. Just think if you have any questions. Here we have Dinesh ask a question. What are the prerequisites? The first prerequisite is, let's say if you are an existing data scientist, data engineer, data analyst, or someone ML engineer, DevOps professional, in some way, anyway, you are associated with ML industry. That's the first prerequisite. And second prerequisite is, let's say when it comes to programming experience, let's say if you have a minimal experience, if you can able to understand, let's say the basic programming, the logics, Python, for example, like variables, loops, all those stuff, pretty much that is fair enough to get started with this particular program. Okay, so you don't need expertise. Let's say if you are a data scientist, a data engineer, then I would say that yes, you should have an expertise already. Okay, that's how it works. Perfect. So here we have an Akhil also asked a question. I have a basic knowledge in data science and machine learning. That is fair enough, Akhil, to get started with this particular program. Yes. Please do ask your question. I'm going to spare a few more minutes. If you're going to ask questions, I have shared the links in the chat window once again. The first link is for the registration. So if you click on this particular link that I shared in the chat window, you'll be redirected to a website which is called Townscript. This is where the payment is being hosted. If you go to this particular link, so here you can able to check the details, you can check the poster, and you can check the same curriculum. We have some demo session also attached here. You can check the complete curriculum that you have already in a PDF. You can check it here. You can hit book now button, so you'll be redirected to a page which will look like this. Here you can able to pick a seat that you want. Let's say you're looking for a basic plan, advanced, or advanced plus if you're Indian participants. Otherwise, let's say you're joining from different different country. If you're an international participants, you can able to pick a seat in dollars basically here for a basic or advanced plus over here basically. Yes. So, and again, this free upgradation offer that we're talking about, that is pretty much strictly till 11th of September. After that, you will not get the free upgradation offer. Perfect. Please do ask your question. I'm going to spend a few more minutes if you have any questions to ask. So I'm going to spend 2 more minutes. If you have any questions, feel free to just ping me. If you have any questions, if you need some consulting, so please make sure you contact me in either of these numbers. We can have a detailed discussion. So what's your role and what's your current experience, and whether MLOps, how you can able to get started with MLOps, and what will be the benefits of that later. Okay, perfect. As I mentioned, if you have any questions, so resume preparation is part of our advanced plan. You can get 6 months of technical job support, as I mentioned. So there are 2 categories of participants. One category of participants, they need assistance in applying for a job. We do help them starting from preparing their resumes, then decoding their job descriptions, which feeds them a confidence and they can able to face the interview. The bonus reiterates opportunity that I'm talking about, you get twice the chances to take the program. Consider that you're signing up for our current batch. Even after completing our current batch, you can retake this program once again in the next batch completely for free, which is happening on let's say December batch, for example. And when it comes to our advanced plus plan, the one feature difference that you have is instant access. Let's say you complete a registration in today or tomorrow, you get instant access to the recordings in the next 24 hours. You can get started with the recordings right now with the support from us. Okay, so that's how it works. So, and this is the pricing for USD. Let's say for advanced plus plan starting from $999. For advanced plan, it starts from $599. For a basic plan, it just starts from $549 basically. Okay, saying this is all about the session. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much for providing your valuable time, 2 hours of your time. I really appreciate that. And if you have any questions, feel free to just ping me, and I will let me just share you once again the testimonials links in the chat window. You can also watch this YouTube recordings, so where it's the testimonials that we have collected with our previous batch participants. You'll get some more clarity. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the session. And make sure you register before the offers are getting expired. If you have any questions, feel free to ping me. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye.